journey started, probably 2 years now. Because officially will be January 20th will be 1 year anniversary. So it's really been almost 2 years. So it's been crazy, man. You know, I remember when I said yes to Pastor Welby, a month later, man, I go and I lose my job. I was like, hold on, man, I'm doing the Lord's will, and the job that I've had for 10 years, I get fired. I was like, really? You know, I remember being in one of our interest parties and having to lift up my hand because I'm like, hey, man, I need prayer because I just lost my job. So I was like, come on, man. Man, it's been a lot of up and down throughout this process for us personally. But I guess you can say, man, we couldn't trade it for anything, because at the end of the day, the outcome is a lot greater than even our own circumstance, which is hard to see at that moment when you're going through the battle or whatever that may be, man. When you go back and look at where you started, where you didn't have a church building or a facility of where to meet, when we were just having our interest parties at people's houses. A year later now, you actually are in a middle school, and you see all the people, man, that God has brought forth to make Hope Rising happen, man. It's like, wow, all the grind, you know, all the frustration that you might have, whatever it may be, it's you look back and you're like, man, this is well worth it, man. And so 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning becomes no big deal, you know. So
I just remember through conversations throughout the years, basically, Welby always saying, you know, one day when we lead a church, and I just remember always thinking, excuse me, what? Like, I'm not ready for this. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not enough. But I learned along the way that it's not about you being ready enough. It's about you being in a position to be used by God, who is enough.
A pivotal moment for us when we decided to church plant was we had started to pray and fast earlier that year. I believe it was 2015. But it was probably October, and one of our youth staff, one of my right-hand guys, Enrique, had called me and said, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to step down from helping and being a part. So at the end of this year, I'm going to go ahead and step down. That night, we went to sleep after that conversation, and Enrique texted me at about 3 a.m. And I wake up the next morning and I get this text. I'm like, what is he texting me at 3 a.m.? That's crazy. And he let me know. He said, hey, God revealed to me that not only is it me who's stepping down, but you also will be stepping down as youth pastor.
He came over, he showed me the phone, and he said, look what Enrique texted me. You're not going to believe this. And he shows me the phone. He said, you couldn't script this any better. And it was just so true, just how God just orchestrated everything step by step. And we couldn't have planned this thing out any better. God, in his infinite wisdom, just showed Enrique things that we had talked about in private. And we're like, how is this even possible?
When God calls you to do something, he sends people in your path to confirm what he's already spoken to you.
You know, we really don't think it was one pivotal moment. We feel like it was a bunch of moments all together throughout our lives, starting with before he was born. You know, he had someone spoke over him, and just all throughout our lives of kids ministry and youth ministry and leaders and pastors that poured into us over the years, who showed us how to love God and how to love and serve others, and just every step of the way, that it's not just one moment that defines you or makes you who you are. It's a bunch of moments that God is building character. He's building dreams and visions inside of you, and it's step by step, day by day, that he pours out and into the ultimate calling that he has for you. So I think it's a bunch of different moments, and maybe not just one.
The thing that's changed the most in me has been just completely learning that God is faithful and He is who He says He is. And even in the moments that maybe you don't feel like it, it's okay. Just go on what He's told you. Lean on that.
I've really learned to trust the Lord for everything, for provision, that He's our source, that He's our strength. And one thing that I've really loved is just seeing people that God has taken from a past of hurt and maybe rejection, and He's just transformed them, and He's used them, and just taken a life that maybe was lifeless before and breathed into them. And I think just people's lives changing is what has changed me, and it's unfolded before our eyes, and it's been crazy awesome to see.
I think one of the reasons why Hope Rising is special is because of the stories that are being told and that are being written. We look at the marriages that are being put back together and things being restored in people's lives, people growing closer to the Lord, people experiencing God on a level that they never had experienced before, simply because they said yes to being a part of a church plant, something new. And God's been doing just extraordinary things. I was at a conference in July, and I felt like God spoke to me and said, your word for next year is more. I got this scripture in Ephesians 3:20. It says that He'll do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or think. And it just resonated with me. And I began to ask the Lord, what does more mean? Because more can mean a lot of things. And I think early on, as a church plant, there are going to be plenty of implications on what more can be. We want to reach more people, and we want to have more groups, and we will. It's inevitable. We'll definitely have it. But what does it really mean? I feel like for us, God's taken us on a spiritual journey, especially this year, where I felt like this year was a year of drawing close to Him, where there was what is more, that we were drawing spiritually closer to the Lord, that we're gonna see God do things in ways that we know that we couldn't do it on our own. And that in fact this series that we're in, Made for More, we believe that you and I were made for more, that we don't have to settle for the status quo. In fact, the very things that we started this whole church on with people, wanting people to discover their purpose, not looking back after their life is done and saying, what was my life? What was I created for? What was I meant to do in life? No, we want people to know what they're created for, not letting their past mistakes define them, because we've all messed up. We've all got mistakes. We've all got things that maybe we're not proud of, but not sticking to those things, but knowing that God has more for us, that He has a future for us, and that these dreams that He's placed inside of us, they really would come alive, and realize that God has more for us. If you're in the woods and you're lost, and you come across a group of people that are experienced hikers and they know the woods really well, you wouldn't say, no, I'm good, I'll find my way on my own. No, if you're, intelligent, you're gonna go alongside of the people who have been down this path already. They already know where they're going and what they're doing, and they're gonna help you see your way out of the woods and get you to where you need to be. I feel like that's kind of who we are in essence as a church right now, that hey, we're gonna help you through the woods of life, that hey, you may be wandering around, you may be lost right now, but we want you to know that hey, we may have just be a few steps ahead of you, or a few steps where you want to be or where you need to be. But there's a group of people all taking their next step, and as we take steps together, we can get out of the woods and we can find our way together.